Todd Chrisley's estranged daughter, Lindsie Chrisley, takes to her Instagram to share the most cherished memories of her life. Keep reading to find out what Lindsie cherishes and more. Todd Chrisley's oldest daughter has likely had a rough year. 2021 seems like a year of life changes for Lindsie Chrisley. Just a few months ago, the Coffee Convos co-host confirmed with her fans that she and her husband of 9 years, Will Campbell, are getting a divorce. The couple shares a son, Jackson, 9. Speculation of the divorce seems to start around the time Lindsie Chrisley shares a photo of herself wearing a hard hat at a house that's under construction. At the time, the post seems sort of cryptic. Now, it appears that she may have been foreshadowing. "I've been spending a lot of quality time with myself," she pens. She gives an update in the rest of the caption. Lindsie explains she's been spending this time to establish boundaries and focus on things that make her happy. Lindsie says it's a solid place to be. In her first Instagram post since the end of November, Lindsie Chrisley marks November 20, 2021 as one of the most cherished memories of her life. The date has sentimental meaning for the newly single mother of one. She explains that it was one of the first times she and Jackson set out to make memories as just the two of them. In what was likely a bittersweet moment, Lindsie and Jackson set out to have a Thanksgiving picnic. The mother/son duo didn't have a traditional Thanksgiving celebration because this was the first major holiday that the Southern Tea podcast co-host would have without her son. While she doesn't come out and say it, Will and Jackson were likely spending Thanksgiving together. Not only did Lindsie get to enjoy a Thanksgiving picnic with Jackson, but she explains how their puppy had a major part in making the day special. One of the reasons the former Chrisley Knows Best star cherishes memories from November 20, 2021, is because it is full of memories of Jackson and Georgia together. Georgia almost didn't make it in time. In the caption, Lindsie explains that it almost didn't happen. She didn't know if she would have Georgia in time for her Thanksgiving celebration with Jackson. The mom of one writes, "I can't take credit for God's timing, but I can give him credit for hearing my prayers and showing up when I needed him." What do you think of Lindsie Chrisley and one of her most cherished memories? Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Make sure to come back to TV shows Ace for more Chrisley Knows Best news. While you won't see Lindsie Chrisley on a new episode of Chrisley Knows Best, don't forget the season final is this Thursday, December 16, 2021, at 8:30/7:30 on USA Network. They'll be celebrating a very Chrisley Christmas. For someone who grew up under the glare of reality television spotlight, Lindsie Chrisley has always been an intriguing paradox, fiercely private, yet unafraid to speak her truth. As the eldest daughter in the Chrisley clan made famous by Chrisley Knows Best, Lindsie's journey has often unfolded in the shadows, separated from her famous family, quietly raising her son Jackson, and navigating heartbreak and healing with admirable strength. But in a rare, tender moment on her podcast, The Southern Tea, Lindsie recently opened up in a special episode dedicated to reflection. The theme? My most cherished memories. And what poured out was a tapestry of love, laughter, lessons, and a few surprises. Here's an inside look at the stories Lindsie says she holds closest to her heart. The day Jackson was born. The moment I met my soulmate. Hands down, the day Jackson was born is etched into my heart forever, Lindsie began. Her voice softened as she recalled the memory. I know people say motherhood changes you, and it does. But I don't think I understood just how complete I would feel the moment I held him in my arms. Lindsie gave birth to her son in 2012, and even though her marriage to Will Campbell later ended in divorce, she maintains that becoming a mother was the greatest decision of her life. I remember crying, not from pain, but from gratitude. I had this overwhelming sense of this is it. This is who I was made for. Even now, more than a decade later, she says she finds fragments of that day in the way Jackson laughs, the way he walks, and the way he sometimes reaches for her hand without thinking. Afternoons at Nanny Faye's house. Love without conditions. While her relationship with her father, Todd Chrisley, has been tumultuous and complicated. Lindsie has always had a soft spot for one family member in particular, Nanny Faye. She's the definition of unconditional love, Lindsie said. No matter what was going on in the world, no matter who was fighting or what tabloids were saying, at Nanny Faye's house, you were safe. Lindsie recounted afternoons spent baking cornbread, sipping sweet tea, and sitting on the porch listening to stories from Nanny's youth. It was a space without judgment, she said. A place where laughter wasn't edited for television and family felt genuine. There's something healing about hearing someone say, "I love you just as you are," and meaning it. That was my Nanny Faye. Her first apartment. Freedom in four walls. Lindsie also reflected on the first time she moved into her own apartment, away from the expectations and control of the Chrisley household. It was nothing fancy. Definitely not reality TV ready, she laughed. But it was mine. It smelled like lavender and laundry detergent, and every time I walked in, I felt like I could finally exhale. Decorating that apartment became a sort of therapy. She filled it with photos of Jackson, stacks of self-help books, and candles that made the whole space feel like a sanctuary. That apartment was where I learned to trust myself, where I stopped being someone's daughter or someone's wife and started being Lindsie. Podcast milestones. My voice, my healing. When Lindsie launched The Southern Tea, she wasn't trying to build a media empire. She just needed a place to tell her story, on her terms. I didn't know if anyone would listen. Honestly, I didn't care, she admitted. I needed somewhere to process the grief, the betrayal, the freedom. To her surprise, thousands of listeners tuned in. Many of them were women who saw themselves in her heartbreak, her honesty, her humor. There was one message I got early on from a listener who said, "You gave me permission to leave a toxic relationship." That moment. That's a core memory now. Because in helping others, I realized I was healing myself. Watching Jackson tie his first tie. A full circle moment. Not all cherished memories are grand events. One of Lindsie's favorites is a quiet, intimate moment between mother and son. It was for a school event. He had this little clip-on tie, and he insisted he wanted to wear a real one like Dad used to. So I YouTubed a video, and we learned together. The image of Jackson struggling to get the knot just right, tongue sticking out in concentration, brought Lindsie to tears, not out of sadness, but from pride. He looked at me afterward and said, "You're the best mom ever." And in that second, all the doubts I've ever had just vanished. A beach trip with just the two of them. Sand between our toes, and no one else. Every summer, Lindsie makes a point to take Jackson on a solo trip. Just the two of them. But there's one trip, in particular, that stands out. We stayed in this tiny beach cottage in Seaside, Florida. No schedules, no phones. Just oceans, sunsets, and each other. They built sand castles, ate ice cream for breakfast, and danced on the deck to 2000's pop hits. It was the most unfiltered joy I've ever felt, she said. She keeps a photo from that trip, Jackson mid-laugh, hair messy from salt water, on her nightstand. It's a reminder that life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. The day she chose herself, I walked away, and I walked tall. Perhaps the most powerful memory of all was the day Lindsie walked away from the Chrisley empire. I remember standing in front of a mirror and saying out loud, "You are allowed to leave," and I did. It wasn't easy. There were tears, backlash, and headlines. But Lindsie never looked back. I chose peace over performance. Truth over reputation. That day wasn't just a memory, it was a rebirth. Final thoughts. Memories that matter. As she wrapped up the podcast episode, Lindsie grew emotional. "These aren't just stories," she said. "They're my soul's souvenirs. Little bits of magic I've collected along the way." And in true Lindsie fashion, she left her listeners with one final piece of wisdom. Life will break you, stretch you, surprise you. But if you pay attention, it'll also give you these moments. Moments that say, you survived, you're still here, and look how far you've come.